right. Welcome, everybody, to the Ultimate Advisors Resource Podcast. I'm Jordan Pence. We're with Advisors Resource Company. We help advisors like you write more life insurance and annuity business, and we help you make you look good. Today, I've got our LTC specialist on, Mike Johnson, and this is really part 2 continuation of our previous series. We got a lot of great feedback on the last one, Mike, by the way. A lot of interest, a lot of people asking great questions afterwards. So I think this has been really popular. But today, we're talking about some tax advantage strategies that can be leveraged around long-term care. And I think that's one of the more exciting things that we can do is put together tax advantage strategies with regard to these types of plans and really any of the plans. I mean, a lot of times when you're dealing with life insurance, annuities, anything like that, you're really hitting on, hey, what's the tax? What are the tax reasons that you're going to do this? And so, without further ado, Mike, why don't you kick us off and get right into it, and I'll ask questions as need be.
Yeah, that sounds great, Jordan. And thanks once again. I really appreciate the opportunity. Appreciate everyone being here today. I'm excited to talk to you about what Jordan just mentioned. Um, and just as a quick thumbs up, everything looks good there as far as my screen share. Perfect. All right, so we'll do just that. We'll talk about how this can be, I think, sometimes a really important conversation. We'll look at both using um, non-qualified and qualified retirement accounts like IRAs, 401ks, and how that money can be repositioned into a tax-free long-term care benefit. And ultimately, this is just about being a lot smarter with those assets. So instead of letting that money just kind of sit idle or worse, take distributions in a way that can trigger some negative tax consequences, we'll explore how clients can unlock a larger benefit, more protection, and it's by using strategies that are already built into the tax code. So this is a great way for advisors to help their clients lock in those long-term care expense coverage solutions, find more opportunities along the way. So we'll just go ahead and get things started.
Well, and to your point, Mike, it could be a great way to give an idea to a CPA, give an idea to another planner that you're working with that maybe you're getting referrals from. Like all these things could be opportunities um, for for advisors out.
Without a doubt, Jordan. I mean, it's just it's such a hot solution now. We're seeing so many of our affiliates use this as a kind of that low hanging fruit strategy. It's one that really just about anyone can implement. So I'm excited to share with you more about this. Um, when we think about the way that we can, the sources of premium for this, right? When the need for some kind of care solution arises, most of those clients, they'll typically default to using money from their IRAs, their 401ks, or annuities. Yeah, and I think oftentimes they're not really realizing the tax implications that come along with that. And these dollars are typically set aside for long-term care, but they're the first assets that people typically tap into when they need care. And it's really not surprising, right? There's over 2 trillion um, in annuity assets and nearly 26 trillion in IRAs and defined contribution plans. And these are natural sources for care funding, but they're also taxable in most cases. So while these accounts, they can technically pay for care, they're not always the most efficient way to go about doing it, especially when you think about the tax consequences and the impact that it'll have on income planning, the potential burden on the family. So I always like to say this is if we're not bringing these tax smart long-term care conversations into play, someone else will. Or worse, the client might be making an expensive mistake. So this is a chance for us to be, kind of that trusted voice in the conversation, help the clients guide them to the outcome that they're looking for. And that's a really powerful solution to say the least. Um, I think it's really important to touch on the Pension Protection Act. So in 2010, the Pension Protection Act That's a provision that's a real game changer for long-term care planning. So
So this
what did
really
that
isn't that old. 2010 is only 16 years ago.
it's not that old, right? Um, and here's what's great. And what it allows is certain types of life insurance, annuity contracts, how that can be used for tax-free long-term care long-term care planning. And so before this change, if a client had, say, for example, a non-qualified annuity with gains in it that needed to access that money for care, well, they're going to be taxed on that gain as ordinary income. So now if that annuity is structured properly, right, and it's in a long-term care compliant annuity, they can use those same dollars, including the gains, and they can fund that long-term care without any kind of tax liability. So this is a really powerful opportunity for those clients that have those annuities they're not using, especially those that haven't been touched in a long time. And so, I think ultimately, the clients, they don't mind paying for protection, right? But what they hate is paying for unnecessary taxes. So this is a great way for us as insurance professionals, financial professionals, to show how we can eliminate that tax bill and solve a problem along the way. And this is a really solid value add that you can position as a strategic partner in this conversation. And it's exciting solution, a great way to turn it into a real growth engine to your practice.
And
Have
and what you're
some
referring to is like highly appreciated non-qualified annuities, right?
Yeah, and we've got I'll bring it to life with this example, and this is one that we
Okay,
see
yeah, yeah.
all
Go
day,
ahead.
every day. Um, Now, let's just examine it. Imagine we've got a 68-year-old male client. There's a $200,000 non-qualified annuity, and let's say maybe they invested $150,000 originally, and there's a $50,000 gain in the contract just sitting right there. If they surrender that contract, they take withdrawals to pay for care, they're going to be taxed pretty heavily right from the start, depending on the tax bracket they're in. In this example, we've shown a 12 or 24% tax bracket. That's a $12,000 tax hit. That money's just gone in an instant. But we've got a solution, right? We've got a much more effective way to go about this. One carrier in particular looks really good in this scenario. It's Global Atlantic's For Care. So what we can do is we can take that annuity, we can reposition it. It is Pension Protection Act compliant, and we can use this via 1035 exchange. And this avoids any kind of negative tax implications up front. Now the client can use that $200,000 tax-free benefit with Global Atlantic. Depending on the client's underwriting approval, that can be 2 to 3 times that initial contract value. So when the client needs to tap into that benefit, typically at age 80, when they'll likely need it the most, I mean, you can see that there's just shy of $14,000 worth of long-term care per month. And we've got a significant amount of leverage right from the start. So this is an approach that it's not only protecting the client's health, but it protects their wealth and retirement and their income planning strategy. And I think if we just bottom line it, advisors that help their clients turn these idle assets into a tax-free protection solution. Jordan, we're doing a whole lot more than just selling insurance. This is delivering real financial planning, and I think this is why it's so exciting. It's going to be able to build trust and build business along the way too.
So to recap or to maybe restate what you're saying, I got a $150,000 basis. I've got 50,000 of gain. I roll that over into an asset-based long-term care annuity because annuity to annuity, annuity can't go to life, but I'd roll it over into a long-term care annuity. Then all of that benefit, 778,000. Well, I'm sorry, it's more than that. 978,000 of LTC benefit, if I need it, is not taxable.
Correct. Correct. What a powerful solution, right? And so I think that leads to, this next part of the conversation when we think about who would be the ideal client for this. And so usually we're looking at clients that are, at or near that retirement age, typically age 60 to 80. They have a non-qualified annuity that maybe they're not really relying on for income. There'd be some gains built up into that contract. Uh, Big part of this is insurability. Sometimes we've got those clients, they might not be able to qualify for traditional long-term care coverage. Or I think more importantly, they just want a different way to cover that risk. And many times these are annuities that they're purchased a long time ago, maybe as a CD alternative, and largely they've just been kind of sitting there earning modest interest and not really serving a clear purpose anymore. But we can change that narrative. We can reposition those dollars. We can just give it a lot more purpose, a new life, if you will, in the form of a tax-free long-term care protection. And I think if we're not bringing this up, those annuities can sit untouched or get cashed out inefficiently. And obviously, that's something that we want to avoid. So we see this as being a really low barrier entry point to start that long-term care conversation and build new business. So,
It's a really good point.
yeah. And I think this is where it really gets exciting too, because we talked about how we can use qualified money as well. So we'll move to this second strategy where we're talking about using qualified money in either an IRA or a 401k. And so one carrier in particular, One America, they will directly accept a rollover from a qualified funding source. And this is where they really shine. And they have kind of a specialized structure where you can use a portion of that qualified money, and that'll fund a qualified annuity, and that systematically funds the long-term care policy over a set number of years. It's 10 years. Now, one thing I want to note, this is qualified money and it's still taxable, but because the way that those payments are spread out over a longer period, that tax impact is much smaller. One America handles this in kind of a concierge style service. So from the client's perspective, it's a one and done. And those benefits that they receive from long-term care are income tax free. And so this is a really appealing option for those clients that say, well, all my money's in an IRA, or it can remove that common objection of, well, I'd like to do some kind of long-term care protection, but I don't have the liquid assets. So, we see a lot of success with this strategy with a lot of our affiliates. They can solve that problem, remove that roadblock to do more business. And this is a real world example that we've got here. We see this all the time. This same
I love this
68.
solution. Yeah, I mean, it's like the
Yeah,
60 to 70. It's sort of what I talked about when we started on the last one, like peak 65 right now. This is like perfect for that. And it's really not that middle America is bad, but this is like a middle American solution for this because middle America has all their money tied up in qualified plans, right, Mike? I mean,
most
that's how it is.
definitely. Most definitely. And I think this is why we're seeing so much success with this strategy. It's just that sweet spot that you mentioned. And so, we've got that same 68-year-old male here. This is a real world example that we show all the time, every day, every single day, where we look at One America and how they can take this $200,000 rollover. What I love about this is they apply a 25% bonus to that rollover right from the start. Right. And what they'll do is again, remember, they'll stage that premium in over the course of 10 years to mitigate the taxes. We've got a death benefit if the clients never need care. But I think more importantly, the reason we're doing this is to leverage that money for long-term care dollars. So in this scenario, we've got over $11,500 a month in long-term care benefit at age 80, when the client will
Tax free,
likely
by
need,
the way, right?
when they need it the most. And here's the biggest, what I think is the biggest eye opener, is we've got a total benefit pool of nearly $900,000 of tax-free long-term care benefit. That's over four times the amount that they started with, and they're only paying taxes on a small fraction of that each year. So this is a strategy that it's not only providing that long-term care protection, but I see it preserving the client's retirement income strategy that keeps them in better control of their tax picture. And then and what I love about this is it's not just insurance, it's a retirement income plan, it's tax planning, it's all rolled into one. And we can help solve across these areas. Your value goes up as an advisor and your revenue goes up as well. So it's a win-win across the board.
Yeah, I mean, people are really hungry for these types of ideas, and I do like that strategy. I think it's a great idea. And it's a great way to bundle it and keep it simple.
without a doubt. And we get this question a lot, right? It just kind of leads into this next question of what can we do to cover two spouses, right? And so we can do this. The answer is yes, you can use this strategy of using what's called the eligible person provision. So with that, there's some caveats that just need to be pointed out here. Now, both clients would need to qualify for underwriting. The spouse would have to be listed at the time of application. The spouse would have to be the primary beneficiary. They'd have to meet all those eligibility guidelines. But ultimately, this is a great way to stretch that that single asset into protection for two people. So couples that are looking to consolidate that protection and avoid the cost of two separate policies, this can be a really attractive solution. So it's a joint coverage. It can be really cost efficient. It can be really tax efficient now. And I think ultimately it's just really, emotionally reassuring for those couples. So, you know, there's fewer moving parts to this strategy, and advisors can bring this to the table. We can implement this kind of solution, just make it smoother and faster, and it can be a real game changer to say the least.
Yeah, the joint solution is a good idea, especially again for somebody who's like middle America, right? It makes a lot of sense, I think.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And and we've got that same. I mean, it mirrors that previous slide almost to the T, right? But in this scenario, we've got the two spouses, both 68 years old. We'd look at that same IRA rollover into the One America's product. They do the same thing, right? It's that same bonus that's applied. It's the same tax mitigation strategy where that premium is staged in over a 10-year span. And remember, we've got a death benefit if the clients never end up needing care. We've got almost $7,700 each. Each insured has that available to them at age 80 when they'll likely trigger benefits. And remember that leverage story, which is so powerful. We've got just shy of $600,000 in tax-free long-term care coverage. So what a great way to, protect that retirement plan, reduce the emotional and financial stress on the family if one or both of those clients needed care in the future. Um, bottom line is, clients they want to take care of each other, and so this is a great way for us to show how they can do this that much more efficiently. We'll be able to earn a lot of trust and more of their business along the way. So this is what I love
Yeah.
about this, Jordan. It's just kind of a short, sweet, but really powerful sales idea that's right there for the taking. And it's just, there's so many opportunities that your advisors can take advantage of here. So I think about just, kind of bringing it all together. And when we do our annual reviews, when we're doing annuity reviews or what have you, when your clients has an older annuity, maybe some large gains or an IRA that they may never really fully use, we've got a powerful story to tell. It's a smart way, it's an efficient way to leverage those assets into long-term care protection. And so, I think when you just remember this is with the right kind of structure, we can reduce taxes. We can create that leveraged long-term care benefit, but ultimately we're providing that peace of mind for the clients. And so just remember, if you're working with someone that has those dormant assets, maybe something that's going to be underutilized, or you just want a new way to present a planning idea, let's talk about it, right? You connect with Jordan, and I'll be an extension of Jordan's team where we can find those strategies that'll be the ultimate fit. Um, I just see this as such a fantastic way for the clients to have that money work a lot harder for them in retirement. And in my view, it's not just insurance. It's solving problems. It's driving results. When we do this, um, the long-term care business, it's not just another line of coverage. I see it being a real growth engine to your practice. So um, again, we've seen such huge success with this strategy, and I have no doubt that your advisors, when they focus on this, they'll see the same. And I'm more than happy to help you take advantage of these opportunities.
Yeah, I think you're right, Mike. Like it's with Peak 65, like I mentioned in the beginning, we have more and more an aging population. If you're doing AUM, annuities, whatever, you're getting a lot of business from these areas. And many people, they are, they are having these questions, and really it's about, "Hey, have you done any care planning? Would you like, that's something I can help you with. Would you like, are you open to the conversation?" I actually just visited with the One America wholesaler like 2 weeks ago, and we were talking about who's having the most success, and it's ironically, it's people who are getting, leads from people from the internet on long-term care planning. So that tells me that all your clients are probably going out to the internet and they're trying to find somebody to help them with this. All you need to do is say, "Look, Mike, I can help you with care planning. Is that something you'd be interested in?"
Right.
It's a
Yep.
simple conversation, and it's you just listen to them. "Well, hey, what is your plan? What would you want to happen? What assets are you gonna use to fund it? Okay, what if we reposition that asset into this qualified plan funding asset-based long-term care from One America?" I mean, simple. It's not that complicated. Um I had a question come in, Mike, and I think it'd be best if you answer it, but, they just said, "This can't be just any annuity, it has to be an LTC-based annuity." Going back to the annuity funded one, yes, and the question is, how does that regular $200,000 cash value annuity turn into 975 of long-term care benefit? Like, how does it go from that 200 to 900,000?
Yeah. Yeah. Great. Great question. So, it's a lot of it is based on underwriting, right? So one of the big advantages with this product is with the Global Atlantic 4Care annuity. There's either a 2x or 3x leverage, and that's going to be based on some really simple knockout questions, if you will. But
Questionnaire,
it,
basically, right?
in a questionnaire, right? So this is super easy to do field underwriting. We can get really speedy approvals, but this is a fixed annuity, and so not only will it have significant leverage right from the start, but it will have significant growth down the line too. So um, it's not to say that Global Atlantic and their 4Care product is the only game in town. One America also has an annuity solution, and Nationwide has one as well. But
Nationwide just came out with that product, right?
they did, yeah. And these can be done on either individual or joint solutions. And so, the big appeal with these products is they can offer significant leverage right from the start. They're not designed to be, some kind of income generation. It's more geared towards long-term care coverage. And with that growth that can take place, you can either add an inflation rider or not. But either way, you've got significant growth down the line, and that's where we see a lot of success with those advisors that sometimes lead with that conversation, especially when we're doing those annuity reviews where we can just take that money and reposition it and make it go to work a lot more effectively and a lot more efficiently. I've got some pieces that I can share with you, Jordan, that we can pass on to the folks that ask some
Yeah,
additional questions, and we can
yeah,
even
that'd be great.
even do a follow up with carrier representation as well, which is can be really impactful. But yeah, it's a powerful story to say the least.
Agreed. Yeah, no, I 100% agree with that, Mike. And I think, one of the, like, more powerful things that you mentioned is the fact, and we didn't even talk about it, but it's the fact that you can do joint. And if I'm rolling over an annuity, it doesn't matter what the current annuity is. So like if like let's say it's my I own it and I'm the annuitant on it, I roll it into an LTC annuity, I can keep it so that we can keep the 1035 as me as the owner, me as the annuitant, but I can put my wife on the rider portion of it.
Yes.
Right. So that I think is something that, because you're trained to say, "Oh, it's not joint, so we can't do joint if we roll it over," but the rider is somewhat different than that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It is, and that's why I think it's gained so much traction. Is because now we can offer that solution for both individual and joint coverage. And I think a lot of times a lot of advisors are just simply not aware that there's that provision that's available. It's just such a huge one to capitalize on. So again, I really strongly feel that if you've got the client, we understand what the funding source looks like, we have an idea of what the objective is. Me working with you, we're going to be able to find a solution that's going to be the ideal fit for them. So I'm excited to carry the conversation forward with you.
Yeah, me too. Me too, for sure. I don't see any other questions rolling in just now, so I guess we'll just end it right there, Mike.
Perfect.
And thanks for joining me. Thanks everybody for tuning in. I hope you got something out of this. I hope you found it enjoyable. Um, we'll be following up with everybody. So if you have any questions, we'll catch up. But thanks everybody for your time, and thanks again, Mike.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.